Okay. Yep, I think we're live now. Okay, says we're live for 5 seconds, but the stream looks really funny over there. Anyway, I was in the middle of trying to set up a starting soon thing, but then I realized I was making a mess of it on Spark, and I said, like, okay, I'll just start. I will make a graphic. I have new stuff arriving. Or rather arrived. I've got new microphones and a whole audio setup, which I'm really looking forward to using. So, nobody on anyway, but that's fine. I'm just gonna stick it out and let's stick it on the inch. Well, I could have done it automatically, but when I used Streamlabs when I was doing Twitch streaming, and it would do it automatically, and I think Streamlabs OBS also do it as well. So live on YouTube. I'm probably not going to stick this back on the channel again anyway, so whatever's done here will just be done here. So I am essentially talking to myself. HTTPS youtube.com. It will help if I put that in right, won't it? youtube.com/c/Lightroom blog. Okay. Hopefully that's the right link. We'll test it out in a minute and we'll see. So the intention is to do a bit of kind of Photoshop. Actually, what I should have done is I should have actually renamed that before I went and did it. We edit. We can't edit. Okay, grand. I'm kind of doing this. I haven't done this in so long that it's kind of just. So it's item/Photoshop /Boris effects. Just I know the images I'm using. That I'll probably run it through optics as well. Live stream. Okay. Save. Okay. 2 playbacks going, so I wonder if that's the double from me. 1 concurrent viewer, that's me, of course. So right, let us get going and actually open up Lightroom. This is because I was trying to set up that screen thingy, so I was like, yeah, that was clever. Let me just put my phone on mute while the model comes back to me about a funny thing I said earlier. Silent mode off, silent mode on. Okay. Yeah, so I did live stream for ages and ages doing stuff on Twitch with Minecraft, but that's under a different username and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of time to be doing it for Lightroom stuff as well. Sometimes it's easier to put more of the time in and just do stuff live and answer questions, because you know people have questions and you can answer them straight away, which is fine. The other thing is I don't mind being on camera with as well. Give me the good stuff, Dave. You're like the only person there, so like you know. So it has to be done that way. How quick is that? How's the audio? There is music playing. Is the music too loud, or is it okay? You know, this is the WhatsApp moment of, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Plenty of good stuff coming up now. Well, once Lightroom loads and Photoshop loads and all that kind of stuff. Actually, I'm going to start Photoshop running now as well, because it likes to be funny sometimes. Who else do you need? Haha. Fair enough. Make that screen now. Don't put a full screen, because then when the other stuff comes in, it won't work properly. Can't hear the music. Okay. It's only royalty-free stuff or commercial-free stuff. Any better? There is a 2 or 3 second delay between me talking and you seeing stuff anyway, so or hearing stuff. Oh, fans are going mad. Keep scratching my head. What's that about? My computer is not liking this streaming. Oh, a bit loud. Okay, I was just kind of guessing. It's hard to gauge. It's only meant to be background music anyway, so. Let me jump to a more recent folder. That was actually moving fairly quickly there. YouTube is not maintaining enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Uh-oh. Too low. Well, it's not meant to be. I didn't do anything. I hadn't changed anything when you said that. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab some of this ladder set here. Okay, Photoshop's just open in the background there. Let's say what's happening is just that everything's opening, and so that is knocking out the CPU a little bit. Open widget. Right, now, okay. So. Oh, yeah, no, it's not that. You want to move this. This is what you want to move. You want to move it on the other screen. Oh, I clearly haven't streamed in ages. So this is from a remote shoot that I did with Natasha Kalashnikova ages ago. So I'm just kind of going to grab one or two of these and start editing them basically. So I'm going to go with this set here, which isn't that much in that set actually. So I'm just going to bring up the whole lot. So shift click in the end of that particular look before she puts on the jacket. Press an N to bring them up, and I'm just going to grab one of these to edit. Kind of like this one here. I mean, I don't dislike any of them to be honest, but or this one. Sure, yeah, should we just go in? And D for develop, just gonna have a check on stuff. So my blacks are really black. So this would have been lit a little bit in such a way that that's the top of the roll there from the angle, so I'll have to kind of fix some of that. So I'm just going to go in and grab a brush. I'm going to stick the blacks down and the shadows down a bit and make sure all the masks are turned on. Using the square bracket key then, and I am just going to kind of paint here along the edges to make sure that my actual blacks are actually black, and I'll have to go back over that area there and fix that. Some of that I will do in post. The other thing is that this is going to get cropped ultimately to a 5x4, and it'll be easier to do if the whole lot is black, because then I can just add black. Okay, now there's a few areas where that's messed up, so I'm going to hold down the Option key or the Alt key if you're on PC, and just kind of get rid of those areas. It doesn't have to be 100%. Okay, so. And again, just to hide this blue is from pressing the J key or clicking on this triangle. And I'm going to do this. There's no true white really in this image, and if I start to bring up the exposure a little bit, it's up a small bit. If I start bringing it up any more than that, it will start blowing out skin, so I don't want to do that. I might just bring it up a small bit, don't have a look. Oh, I just realised that's inside the thing. That's actually inside the brush. So let me hide the brush. No, the skin is too bright there. I think I'll just leave it down where it was and deal with it after, because she is kind of slightly tanned. So, how's the video, Dave? Have you gotten bored already? So yeah, I don't think there's much I need to do here that I won't do in Photoshop. Okay, that looks good. So I am just gonna, normally I would just do Command D and bring it into Photoshop from there. So, but here we're gonna just do it from the menu. So we normally do Command D. So let me just resize Photoshop on the other screen for a second and bring it across from there. Now this particular screen that I'm actually going from it because it's 1920, but you can see that it did do something weird with the GPU there, where the colors have gone red and then they kind of switched. So that's just from moving across screens. So I think the first thing to do obviously is we're just going to go and get rid of any big blemishes, but there are not that many. So I'm just using Command plus and minus to zoom in and out, which is Control plus and minus. And I'm pressing the J key to bring up the healing brush. And then you click Alt Option to just select the spot. And I generally select the spot, and I do it from the same area as skin, because the skin here is different to the skin here, which is different to the skin here, different to the skin here. So you want them to be similar to what's around, otherwise it will make a mess. So it is just a matter of going through this. This stuff is kind of tedious, and this kind of stuff that you would stream just because, you know, you're here to chat as well. For the most part, that's what people are chatting. Well, it's a good thing because I don't want it to move. I don't always get rid of freckles, but for the sake of it, I will here. So if I was being kind of lazy about it, I mean, I'll probably use for the body. I know I'm getting rid of stuff that I don't need to get rid of here, really. Just, it's kind of habit kind of stuff. So, but what I would do is I would duplicate the layer, which is Command J or Control J for PC, and I come in and I will grab Imagine Onyx Portraiture, which in theory will open on this screen. And it's kind of already set up. It's set up for like auto stuff, and yeah, that's close enough for what I would like. And I just click OK. And one thing that does happen with this now is, I'm actually leave that on for a second. If you hold down the Alt or Option key and you click on this eye, it turns off all of the other layers. The reason why I want to jump in and do that is I'm going to grab the eraser, E for eraser, and I'm just going to get rid of the actual eyes because I don't want those areas to be inside it, and the lips, so that way the lips are not affected by this. I'm doing with a mouse at the moment. Normally I do it with a pen, and then if you Option Alt click on that eye again, it brings back the other one. Okay, so let's see what it does. Maybe a little bit strong, so bring the opacity down. Okay, that seems okay. That's definitely better. So it's definitely done something. The other thing I could do is I could potentially leave it on the body and then use a mask to like lower it on the face. Okay, that's fine. I like what's done on the body there. So that's enough. If you want, you can flatten the layer. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to pull that off here altogether for a second, and then I'm going to stamp visible, which is Shift Command Option E or Shift Alt Control E, and that basically pulls these together and throws them on a new layer. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm thinking about the fact that this is kind of an Instagram crop. Let me just make sure that my default colors are on and click X to swap them, so black is the background color. And then I'm going to bring that across this way, and that will give me a kind of more centered 5x4 crop, which will be perfect for Instagram. Okay, just making sure that there's room above the head inside the crop. Alright, great. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to do another one of those flattened layers, because I can see that on this one here, and when we moved it, there's gaps, so I want to get rid of the gaps basically. So because when I bring it into optics, I want it to work on the whole thing, and we're going to go to optics now. Let's filter, Boris FX optics. And optics is just opening up, hopefully. And for once optics is open in the other screen, it normally opens up on this screen. So I'm just going to let it load because it's giving me a beach ball. So what I love about optics is the fact that it's just got so many lighting effects in it. So years ago there used to be Tiffin DFX, and it was kind of, to me, it was like an underrated plugin. It did some really cool stuff. But then when Boris, Boris owned, Boris bought it off Digital Film Tools, DFT, I think. And so they basically had it, but then they added a load of stuff from some of the other Boris stuff from movies and stuff like that, and that made a massive difference what you can do for them. So this is something that I was doing with yesterday's images. So what it does is when it loads up, it will load the previous thing that you've done. So I'm just going to reset that all together back to what we want. I generally find, now while there is a lot of stuff in here, like different color effects, diffusions and blurs, again these ones with S are the newer ones, the sapphire ones, which are kind of based on movie effects. So there's the Film Lab, Grads and Tints, like various different image based stuff, lens stuff for warping and all that kind of stuff. But generally where I'm using light, and I'm using render. I mean there's other stuff in there like the stylizing and stuff like that, but generally speaking for this type of work I don't use them. So it's all about just adding to what's already there. So I'm actually going to start off with render. Because we got this fully black background, it'll suit a night sky. So the way it works is that you have your layers here, and obviously your main image where you can preview stuff, and then you see the presets, but you also have the parameters of that preset that you can change there. And if you look at any of them, there is loads and loads of stuff inside it all of the time. So I'm just going to look around. What do we want? How busy do we want it to be? Let's have a look at Sagittarius. Okay, yeah, no, I like that. Now, obviously there's an issue here in that it's all over the body. And this is where one of the coolest tools that is in, it was in DFX as well, but it's now in here. Come here, we click Add Mask, and we go Easy Mask. Alright, so now by left clicking here, we create this green line. So this is areas that I want to keep. Right, and then we have, if we right click, these are areas that like I don't want, as in I don't want it on this area. So green is yes, we want it there, and red is we don't. Now have I gone? I've gone kind of too far over here. I'm just going to grab this eraser, get it off there, just in case there's an actual star there, and then back here. But if we're right clicking, it'll give us the opposite anyway. So okay, and then when we're done, we come up here to the end of this row. We go generate mask, and that will then generate the mask automatically and show it to you. So as you can see here, it's done a really good job of getting it off the person, and you can see here the areas where it's working and doing stuff or not. Alright, so it is got a little bit of grey here, so that means that it would show stuff through there, but to be honest, I'm not that pushed about that. I think it's done a reasonably good job here. So the next thing I'm going to do is start thinking about what I want to add into it there in terms of other looks. So to create a new layer, we just click on this layer plus icon, and that creates a new layer. So I'm going to jump into light, and I am going to go with maybe some Aurora, because we've got this kind of space thing going on. And we can, of course, move the ends of it around and different points around it, have it do what we want. So we're not stuck with the original path or anything like that. Okay, and again, I don't want this to be on front, so I'm just going to drag this mask and just drop it there as well. So that way that puts that stuff in behind, which is super cool. Going to go check my stream health there for a second. Stream is healthy, well, for a change. Okay, now if you want, you can come into the parameters, and so like the star color is green, so you could actually change that to be a different green if you wanted. And that will bring up the colors palette, which is of course on the other screen. So you can make it lighter or stronger or darker or whatever you want from there. But it doesn't actually update until you click OK. Right, so I'm going to start moving on again, because we're just playing kind of here. So we're going to go with the light leaks, which are absolutely my favorite. Even like the base default light leak is there. But so you got like desert flash, hot pink. Some of these are kind of OTT, so you kind of have to work them, but the idea is that they're giving you ideas of what's going on. That one's not too dissimilar to what we're already using, but it's probably a little bit strong. And that's not bad. That's pretty good. I kind of like that one there, just because it's tying in with some of the stuff that we're doing there. So I haven't gelled this one, so there was no color to begin with, like some of the other images that we're probably going to look at. So yeah, I'm happy with that. And that's how straightforward it is. Like if you want to change stuff, you can, like, so you can move it around. And that's assuming that we're grabbing the right one here, not the line. It's so hard to grab the line sometimes. Just going to spin that back to where it was. And that's where I want to be, to move it around. But as you see, moving around, it's kind of interactive in the way it moves around. So you're not always moving what you think you're moving. Sometimes it cycles through the look as you're doing it. So yeah, I'm happy with that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more, and I'm probably going to just add one more thing to this, and then I'm going to finish up, and that's going to be just a lens flare. I think I want a warm one. This desert sun might be too warm. Actually, you know what? It kind of suits the skin a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of bring it off so the center is off screen. Yeah, I'm liking that. So you can see how straightforward this is to use, and it's really, really quick. Now what I will say about what's going on, if you want at any stage to come in, you know, this edit lens option. Right, and that will bring up the flare designer, which I'm just going to show you really quickly here. I assume this is probably going to open in the other screen. Oh no, it opened up in this screen. So the idea of this is it allows you to actually work on all of the stuff that is within the flare, or build your own flare out of these things. So you can see that as a hotspot, it's got a couple of yellow spots, and as you hover over that, you can actually see where they are. So you can remove them, so I could take that one off if I wanted. I could add that one. You know, so you're just able to add various different ones. So the hotspot is made up of a few different things. There's white rays, orange rays, There's the glow, and then there's kind of a red glow on the outside of it. So we could say turn off that, or what we could do is you come in here and you've got the different parameters for it to actually do stuff. Dave sends me a message. Dave is checking if I'm still streaming, giving out to me. He's in the car. All right. So what you can do is, so you come in and work on the different rays and actually control completely how the flare looks. So you're not limited to just what editing the flares themselves. You can actually create your own flare within it as well. So that is super, super cool. I'm just going to click cancel on that, and it'll just go back to what we were doing there, which is fine. So I'm happy with that. And when you're ready to go, you've two options. You click X here to go out without having the edit, and then you can click done. Now, remember before I talked about the fact that this remembers the last thing you did? We're actually going to make use of that to show you something that's a better practice to be doing when you're actually editing with optics. Especially if you're coming from Lightroom, because you can actually use optics directly from Lightroom. But the thing about that is it just means that it's buried inside the file, and you can't control, say, the opacity of it or any of that kind of stuff. So we've done this here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to undo this, right? Okay, and that undo will throw away the settings when it gets around to finding my keyboard. Well, that's why undo in the right place. So undo. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to go convert to smart object. Right, and now I am going to go back in to optics, and remember I said that it will remember what we did the last time, so it will load up with all of those layers that we've just done there. All right, and then we just click save it out again. When it eventually saves back. So it comes back here, and we can see now that we now have Smart Filter turned on and we have optics. So this means that we can save this file and come back to this file at any stage. And when we double click on optics here, it will open into optics with all of those layers intact, no matter what we've been doing in the meantime. So that's a really, really cool thing about doing it this way. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And then it will eventually show back up in Lightroom again. Should load in a second. Now it does take a little bit. We'll see a change in size and all that kind of stuff. We'll hopefully in a minute. Right, so there we go. That's coming back from optics basically, and from Photoshop as well. So I mean, it's a good bit of a fun program, and it allows you to do lots of stuff with it, you know. So we're going to do a couple more with it as well. So G for grid, and what I'm going to do is I am going to grab one of these ones here then from this set. So be warned that there will be bum showing. Going to click N, and I'm just going to grab one of these. And yeah, okay, I could literally pick any of them. Might not go for eyes closed stuff though. Let's grab this one here then. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, because this is about color, I'm going to concentrate a little bit on color. So what I want to do is I want to add some saturation in general. I'm going to add a tiny bit of vibrance that maybe get more of this color happening without the skin being affected. And then I'm going to jump into HSL. I'm going to turn them all on for a second here. I want to deal with the saturation first though. I'm going to use the targeted adjustment tool, which will turn up and down all of those colors. Okay, so as we increase those, we can see that it's increasing saturation in the reds. Even though it looks pink, it's actually more red. The same with the blues as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to darken the blues down as well. So I'm jumping to the luminance target adjustment tool, darken those down a little bit. And then what we can do is we can actually just check if we want to change the hue to see if that makes a difference. So I think we want it pinker. And then we don't really want to go to cyan, do we? We want to kind of keep it blue. Yeah, the blue needs to be kind of a blue. Okay, so I'm happy enough with that. There is a little kind of banding going across here, but some of the stuff that we're going to do now will actually get rid of that. So I'm going to do a bit of frequency separation and stuff like that. I'm just going to maybe pull back some highlights a little bit, which, as you saw, just affected the face there, and just we're not getting too much blowout on the face. Alright, now we are getting this banding here, which of course we'll be able to deal with. Hopefully we'll be able to deal with it anyway. So now I'm going to go to Photoshop. Again, I could just do the Command or Control E and get it in that way, and that would work. Time for a drink. Let's see what opened in Photoshop. Yep, there we go. Now we're obviously in the crop from earlier. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually just going to go straight away. So I have this preset set up. It's Dust and Scratches Retouch. And what it does is it uses, I'll actually show it to you, but I'm just going to run it so you can see what it looks like here. So it creates this blur layer. I copy that blur layer just in case I make a mess, and then we have the texture separately, and then I just have a color dodge layer set up that I can paint in for eyes. Yeah, no, it's man, it's beautiful. And the other thing is that if you are thinking about getting it, I do have a discount code which is SMCC-25, which gives you a 25% discount code. I actually find it, if you actually search my channel for the other Boris video, it'll actually have a link as well to go with that. So yeah, but it's, yeah, and it does really work on landscapes as well. So let me just get rid of all of this stuff here for a second, and I'll show you how I've done this. So you do Command J, 2 copies of the layer. The bottom layer, we're going to go Filter, it's Noise, Dust and Scratches, 10. And then on this layer here you go, and this is 8-bit. Okay, you can see here it says 8. So you go Image, Apply Image. Excuse me, and you want layer 1, which is the blur layer, and you want it to be Subtract. And then these are already kind of set up from, because it was done a few minutes ago. So this is the key things here are that your layer 1, RGB, Subtract, a scale of 2, and offset of 1 to 8. These are exactly the same as if you were doing it using Gaussian blur, but this is done using Dust and Scratches instead. This is from Danny Diamond's way of doing it, like, you know, but he's not the only person who's done it. You can also, people have done it using median. Any of the stuff that basically blurs will allow you to do it, and then the apply image basically just takes whatever the difference is and lets you work out the difference automatically. So click OK, and like this is usable in anything, so you can use it for fixing textures, and you can use it for smoothing out skies and stuff like that. So yeah, oh yeah, it's definitely worth it, Scotty. I genuinely love it. So after you've done this, you'll see you've got this kind of grey look, and the way to get it looking the same as before, you might think it's overlay, and overlay kind of does something, but for this one here it actually needs to be linear light. Okay, and so if we turn the two of these off, it essentially looks like the underlying there, which is the whole point of this. What you've done is you're basically taking away the color sections from the texture sections. Alright, so what I'm going to do is here, like I said before, to stop me messing up, actually I'm going to do a drag with that. So I'm just going to drag this down to duplicate the layer. You could use Command J as well, or you can have in layer, you can have new layer via copy, new layer via copy. So you can do it that way as well. So we're going to do some of the work on this to do that smoothing out that we were talking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press L for lasso, which is up here, and it's just a basic lasso, and you start to drag around here, and then we use the same like if we've used 10 for Dust and Scratches, so we used exactly the same thing here with Gaussian blur, and that's 10 as well, and we can see that that's smoothed some of these rough areas. Now I may need to do it a little bit more here because there's a very strong defining line here between the blue and the flesh tones, we will see in a second. So I'm going to there's a shortcut as well once you've used the filter, which is this here, which is Control Command F. You will need to look it up on PC because I'm not sure what it is on PC, because Control is not normally used as shortcuts on Mac. So I'm actually just going to click it here for now. So even though the color of the kind of white edges are still there, the blend between them has smoothed it quite a bit, and it's also kind of smoothed the skin a little bit, just to give you a little bit more even tone on the skin. So Command D or Control D to undo the selection, and then I'm literally going to go Control Command F as a shortcut again, because it's all about kind of speeding your workflow where you don't want to overthink about it. Now I'm not too worried about these areas down here because these are going to definitely get cropped when we go to that 5x4 Instagram crop, which I actually prefer as a portrait crop anyway. But you can do this in lots of other places. So now part of the reason why I'm using this say rather than something like portraiture is because portraiture works in skin tones, so anywhere that has gels on it is not gonna it's just not gonna work, because it's not going to detect the color. It'll think that the blue areas are not skin. Okay, and sometimes you don't need to retouch spots and stuff like that. By smoothing out the area underneath it, you can actually remove the effect that it's having on the actual skin. Now there is some stuff here that we will need to work on. So just select the areas, and then I'm just doing that Control Command F. It's the same as clicking here. So it's just applying the same settings again. It just helps speed it up. Okay. So let me just have a quick look around. Is there anything else here that we find that's... I'm happy enough with that. I might still apply to it. Now there's a little bit of a delay on the stream, so sometimes I get distracted by the stuff on the other screen, which happens when you haven't been doing it for a while. So I'm going to press J, but I think I pressed J. Alright, okay. So something that's really key to remember here is just to make sure that this is on current layer. Sometimes you might want to do some healing and you do it on a blank layer, so you have to use current layer and below. But if you use current layer and below when you're using this method, I'll show you what happens. So you get this kind of weird stuff going on because of the fact that it's linear light, and what you're copying from is not a linear light layer. So basically you just make sure it's on current layer. Okay, I'm actually not too worried about the freckles, so I actually have no idea why I'm even getting rid of them. Freckles are beautiful. We'll soften this area on the cheek though, and get rid of the lip piercing for a second. I'm not actually worried about some of these small spots are actually fine. As I've gotten to do this more and more, I'm actually less and less worried about natural stuff in the skin unless it's really, really bad, because natural texture is absolutely essential. So sometimes let's say I've got rid of that bit there, and I'm like, yeah, so we've kind of done something weird here. So I'll go Shift Command or Shift Control F for the fade, which has jumped on the other screen, and I will fade back what I've done, so we get a balance between the two. Okay, so I'm kind of happy with what's going on there. There was one other thing that was in that preset, which I did mention what it was. So if I go here and create a new layer, and I set it to Color Dodge. Oh, sorry, it's not a layer, it's a curves layer, and then set it to Color Dodge. And then what we do is we invert the mask, which is Command I or Control I to invert the mask. And generally I will go for a brush, B for brush, and I will set it on 20%, so I press 2 for 20%. And that lets me just paint in the eye here, just to give it a little bit of impact in the eye. Okay, and if we just turn it on and off, you can see that what it does there. So in case you're wondering, that came from Glyn Lewis. Yeah, that's one of Glyn's tricks that I've been doing for years and years and years now. So, okay, so now we're going to do that stamp visible, which is the claw. You know, so Shift, Option, Command, E, Shift, Control, Alt, E. That brings everything up onto one layer. And now, of course, we are going to go in to our filter and go into Boris. which of course will have exactly the same settings as before. I should really have done that as a thing first, as a smart object first. Like I say, it'll automatically just apply the stuff from the last time. And so you just click on this icon here just to reset it back to nothing. Wow, that is really unmuted compared, or very desaturated compared to what we have. So again, I don't think we need to overdo it with some of the stuff. Do we want to render something in the background? I don't know if we do or not really. I suppose though, for consistency, look, we should really probably do something in it. Have a look and see what Virgo looks like. Probably a bit busy. Not as busy as obviously Simple Starfield, but oh, that's even busier. Ryan isn't as busy, but the stars are brighter. So yeah, I think we'll go back to Virgo. The stars in the middle, I don't mind that too much. But we're going to go and we'll put on that easy mask to get it off. So there's obviously all of these different types of masks. So you've got gradient, which obviously just creates a gradient mask, a spot mask. The thing to mention is when you do these particular ones, you can also invert the mask as well afterwards if you need. But in this case here, we're going to go for easy mask because, you know, it's easy. Again, so the left click to get the green area for the areas you want to keep the mask. So we need to think about inside the arm here as well, and then here around the knees. You don't have to be, they don't have to be straight lines. You can have stuff like this with shapes inside them, just to know, let you know those areas are part of it as well. And now we are going to right click, and then the right click is the areas that you want the mask to go away from so that you're not seeing it. Okay, and down the leg here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to do a little join here and then around here as well. Okay, and then we just come up here into the generate mask icon. Yeah, no, you're right with that, it is. But like with frequency separation, Scotty, it's much handier. There's a couple of other plugins that you can get as well. There's one called Makeup from Acvis, which is like, I think it's $39 versus $199 for portraiture, and it's almost as good. It's more than $160 of good in the difference, if you know what I mean. So if it's something that you're looking for where you want like something that will do the job but do it cheaply, there is another technique as well, which I'll cover when we go back, just to show it to you, from Natalia Taffarel, called inverted high pass, which sets up Gaussian blurs based on inverted Gaussian blurs and high pass based on three, so it's 1 2 3 4 5, and then you triple them, so it would be whatever, 9 12 15 pixels of blur. So you can use that to get smooth skin. I'll actually show that to you in a couple of seconds as well. Okay, so click on the image to hide the actual mask itself. We can see that that's done that nicely. So I think I'm going to bring in a bit of lens flare next. Not flare, but what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, no, it is lens flare. I was thinking light leaks in my head. Oh, I've made a mistake there. I forgot to create a new layer. The irony is that that actually looked okay like that, so let me just even get a better position on it and then apply that mask, because it actually looked good coming from the back there. So that's kind of a nice happy accident. I get a new layer as well then. Going for some of these light leaks. Now sometimes the light leaks make it a little bit bright is the only thing, so but you can pull it down the opacity here as well if you need to. So the last time we actually did like a cool aurora. I could go with that, but again I think this needs a mask. So I'm just going to drag the one from before there. The mask is very, very defined on this, and it's actually very strong, so I'm actually going to pull this back. The other thing that's happening is it's kind of ruining a little bit of the kind of colours that we had before with the pink and the blue, which I don't really want. And again, I think I'm happy enough with that now. So I'm actually going to save it at that point, because you could keep at this for ages and ages and ages, and it just gets messier and messier and messier. Of course, the render part is the slow part. This would normally be the time that I switch to social media and have a look at stuff, but this is just saving out. But I'm on stream. Okay, cool. The great thing as well about what's going on with this as well is that you can see that the hair is you know, the mask has worked with the hair properly and stuff, so I really like that about it. Again, if we found that there was areas where the mask wasn't doing quite what you wanted, you can come in here and create your own layer mask and stuff like that. Very briefly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Command J here on this, and then I'm going to drag this layer to the top for a second, which is the original. Oops, grabbed the wrong one there. The background copy, so I'm going to drag to the top. So it'll be the original layer for a second, because I wanted to talk about that IHP. And now I have it set up as actions here. So 3, 4, 5, so 3 pixels, 4 pixels, 5 pixels. So for something like this where the face is small, I would go lower. Okay, and it's Natalia Taffarel, you look it up. So it literally just creates this layer. So let me just get rid of that mask altogether for a second, and you can see what it does, and delete the mask. So it creates this kind of inverted blur. So what it does is it actually, you can see what it does to the skin. It's quite nice. Okay, so it does get rid of blemishes and stuff like that, but obviously you can see why it got a layer mask on it. So I'm holding on the alter option and then clicking on the add layer mask icon, and that creates the black layer which hides everything. So when it's black, you can't see it. So we need to paint with a white brush. So I'm going to paint with a white brush, B for brush, and I'm going to press 5 for 50%, and then I'm just going to layer it as I need it. Right, I'll just make sure I'm actually painting on the mask. So you can see that that is doing a lovely job on the skin here as well. So it's giving you the same kind of effect that you would get with some of those skin plugins. Alright, but without having to pay for them. Okay, generally the beauty with the skin plugins is that they automatically detect the skin stuff. Alright, so now we just turn this on and off on the face. Okay, we've gone too far over here on this, so press X. And we can bring this back. Now there is potentially a trick for selecting only skin, which is probably not going to work properly on this because it's based on the red channel. If I turn this off for a second here, select the background copy, and you go to Image, Calculations, and so the calculations. What you do is you want to go red against red on this background copy layer, and then you change it to whichever one gives you the greatest contrast, which can be overlay sometimes, or it can be multiply, it depends. In this case here, overlay, the skin is whiter, but it also means the hair is getting selected. So then we click invert, okay, and then we want this to be a selection in this case, and we click OK. So that's selecting the skin for the most part. Okay, so really do kind of some automatic application here. And this is going to do more areas than that, and so fill it with white is what we're going to do, isn't that right? So shift backspace, fill it with white. That'll be the reveal area. Oh no, that's the wrong way around, is it? No, that's the right way around. Yeah, because all of the skin worked there. Okay, or is that the right one? No, it's the other way around, isn't it? Turn it on and off and have a look. Yeah, okay, so that is the right way around. Yeah, you want the kind of white areas where you want it to be, and Command or Control D to deselect. So that's kind of selected the skin for the most part automatically. It's not 100%, but it can be a quick way if you're trying to do stuff at speed, like so. Anyway, so that was just showing you those, but that's not where we're at. We're actually here. This is where we're at, and I'm actually probably going to back this off a small bit as well, and then go for a crop and Apple 0 or Command 0, Control 0, just so we make it fill the screen. And then this needs to kind of move. We want a little bit of room over the top as well, so it doesn't look like it's too close to the top. Okay, and save. And of course go back to Lightroom then. And I wish there was a way when you are in Lightroom that if you start working on a different image, that it allows you to work on the other image without having to, you know, have it jump back as it loads in, which is really, really annoying. Yeah, no worries, got it. So I might go for a furry jacket then next. Some nice big shapes there in the furry jackets. Okay, that one's come back, that's good. That's it there, just because I don't want it to be jumping in the middle of stuff as we go. In case you're wondering, that's it back inside Lightroom there. I think we'll go for this one. Yeah, grand, cool. So again, I want to kind of accentuate the color a little bit more, so a little bit of vibrance and saturation. There's no color on the face in this case here, so I'm not too pushed about the fact that we're going to push these a lot more because we know actual white light on it. So just need to watch for that banding though. I'll just see if that's happening before. Yeah, it is. All right. So I may need to do some of these after. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, let's go back towards red a bit. It's literally visually, I've seen it visually. But again, we could just grab our HSL. That's not too bad. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a radial filter here, double click to make sure that it is gone down, and I'm just going to bring this over the face and bring up the exposure just on the face. I need to click invert first though. Alright, so that's just so we're getting a little bit of light, more light in onto the face. Okay. I might even just do the crop here. So I'm actually going to crop it before we even bring it in. Okay, again, just leaving a little bit of room over the top of the head. Now, this is obviously where the rule of thirds is, but if we were to do this, we're cropping off way too much, and then we've got all this stuff over the top that doesn't need to be there. Okay, and what I think I'm going to do is just have a quick look at what's not happening or what is happening there with the basic, and once we bring on the blacks. But let's look at the whole image as we do it. So it's starting to affect too much inside the person, so I think we're going to have to go in with the brush again. I'm actually just going to jump and check my OBS for a second because, okay, my audio level looks okay for speaking, even because I know I'm not over speaking at the same time. So brush on, and we want to bring down our blacks, maybe our shadows as well. Make sure auto mask is on. Potentially what we could do is we could grab the range mask as well and just make sure that this is only affecting dark areas, but I'm not sure it matters too much with this here because like the blend areas are kind of strong, and for this it's really only the outer areas that I'm worried about. Maybe just bring those blacks down a slight bit more to get it in tighter. Again, so range mask just lets you choose between color, luminance and depth. So if you could choose luminance here, you could actually say, well, only affect the darker parts of the image. But as you can see, you know, there's quite a lot there that it thinks is much brighter than we're visually seeing it. So, all right, so I'm happy enough with that. And then you can just click to turn it off, or you can press J twice to turn on the clipping and then turn off all of the clipping. Okay, so edit in Photoshop. And switch to Photoshop and it'll hopefully open it. Right. So we're going to go in, and I've already explained what's going on with this action. So it's just creating that dust and scratches based frequency separation. So this is the duplicate blur layer, and I'm just going to come down here, and so I'm using Command plus and minus to zoom in and out. L for lasso tool, which is over here. And now we're just going to kind of smooth those areas there. So we're going to come into the blur, and we're going to set up our Gaussian blur at 10 pixels. Okay, and that's it, showing it there. And in this case here, I'm probably going to do it again for this area here. Okay. What I'm doing is, so we're just trying to work on the transitions here just to make sure that they're a little bit smoother between them. Okay, that's fine. And no, we're not going to stay here, but it is part of the image. And yes, she is wearing a bodysuit. And so we're literally doing this, and we're using that Control Command F shortcut, which is the same here if we go to filter, which is repeat glass filter basically. Okay, cool. And grabbing J and jumping to the texture layer, J for heel. Okay, just get rid of that. And zoom in a little bit to get rid of some of that. Now, like I said, potentially what I could do here is, so I'm just using this on the underlying layer. Sometimes that can help get rid of stuff underneath blemishes, but sometimes you do actually just need to fix the actual texture itself. Again, I'm not about removing texture. I like it to look really natural. And here I've gotten rid of that, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go to that Shift Command F or Shift Control F for fade. So I'm going to bring it back so that way it still looks natural, but it's just been reduced a little bit. Cool. So I'm actually fairly happy with that now. I think I'm maybe not happy with is just some of the blend here. That wasn't trying to do that. Press L again. Let me just make sure that my filter is still on Gaussian blur. Okay, that's helped a small bit, but yeah, I think we just have to kind of live with it. I could paint it, but I actually don't think it's that bad. Right. Yeah, I think I'm happy enough there to go and do the Shift Command Option E, the claw, and we create our merged layer. And again, we're going to go to our, well, we said we should do this last time, so let's make sure we do it this time. Convert to Smart Object. And that way we get smart filters. Now we can see here that the auto effects thing is turned off. That means it's not able to deal with being a smart filter, but all the other ones can. Excuse me. So onto optics. Very quiet, people. No more chat. What's going on? Part of doing live stream is for the chat, like. Boom. Still streaming. People know I'm still streaming as well. Still streaming on YouTube. Yep, so that didn't work out for this one here. Definitely not. So get rid of that. And that was using glow edges maybe on this. So let's have a look at some edge rays. Way too much. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that actually. And do I really need a mask with this? I kind of like what it's doing internally inside it. We'll have a look at it with a mask very quickly. You've already seen these easy masks now at this stage. And this will be an interesting one because there's so much fur. So you got all those edges. See how it deals with that. So again, left click for green, right click for red. In actual fact, this is the red one here. But by right clicking, it means you don't have to swap between them. Yeah, and the other thing about fade is that fade only works straight after you've done the task. If you move on even one more step, fade won't work. And then if you undo to go back, fade won't work again. You'll have to redo the thing to be able to get fade to work as well. Okay, and then generate mask. Yeah. Just going to zoom in a little bit. I don't want it to look unnatural around the edges here. I think I'm happy enough now. Okay, moving on. Moving swiftly along. You can click on this little icon here. We'll bring it back to being the size of your screen, your fit view. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in one of the auroras in the background, and I'm not going to do star. You know what? That aurora is not working for me. I think there's a light leak that does those kind of colors, which is this one here, Joker. I don't like the green, so I might jump into parameters and see if I can make the green into a blue. That's more in keeping. That's not really balancing with the red though, so maybe go for that kind of more reddy orange. That's more pink, so back towards that red, I think. I said reddy orange and then I went for like a pink. Yeah, and again, same story, just going to grab the mask so that way it's not on her as much. Although doing that now, then it looks like it kind of needs to be there a little bit. I actually kind of like what that's doing. Now, the one thing I'm going to quickly look at with the elements, individual elements, is that's the kind of green blue one which we had there, which isn't actually green and blue anymore. So can we move the midpoint? Okay. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. That seemed to work more on the other one. Okay. This is the thing about Boris, is that you're always playing with it. So it does give you an opportunity to do lots of play, and so that way you can spend lots of time just messing around doing cool things. And that's what I love about it. So you get some enjoyment from it. I'm not happy with what this light leak is doing, to be honest with you, so I'm actually just going to change it completely. I had an idea for what it might be, and it's just not doing that. I think part of what it is by putting those glowing edges as red edges, that is I've limited myself a lot. And the hot pink is fine, but it's just that it's centered. Please give me the movie bits. Ah, there we go. I should put it down there. Basically I'm hovering around to try and get that center, which lets me move, and I can probably hide them actually. Which element are we on there? There is an enable, so if we turn on and off stuff. Oh, that's actually 3 elements in one, so if we turn that off, does that mean we can move the other one? Yeah, there we go. You have to let go for the glow to come back, is the thing. And now we can enable the other one and then move it. Grand. Oh yeah. So just trying to get the center to be where I want it to be. I'm just thinking that if I rotate, if I change the shape of this one, and then I can just move and see what that's doing. Okay, that's kind of orange. So if we keep the orange, we kind of go a little bit more towards red with that bit. No, it's not affecting that bit of the color directly. I'm just not seeing the change here, so that's what's going on. So the darker. Yeah, I think I'm happy enough with that. So, moving on. I think I'm going to put a flare in, and then I'm going to call it, I think. And we're going to go for, again, something in these colors. Although, you know, looking here, this is interesting. Yeah. Oh, you know what could be good here as well? As a new one on top of that one. That's me scrolling with my mouse. What happens is sometimes is that it takes the pan as part of my scroll, and then when you're moving it just scrolls. That's if it lets me have the parameters again. Let me just go with that. Delete layer and then add a new layer. And we're on. Oh, that's what happened. We weren't actually selecting on anything. So it's got car headlights as an option, which is in the reds. Oh, even underneath it, actually mixed with it. Oh yeah, that's actually cool. Yeah, I like that. And then I'm going to kind of do the same kind of thing again with another flare look and add them to it, which is one of the J.J. Abrams ones. So it's the streak flares. Oh, just a streak reflection actually. So where do we want it to be? Actually down there is cool. And then obviously we want to get the color kind of more in keeping if we can find where they are. Interesting that they're saying they're white. So maybe now this is time to go to edit lens and just have a look at what's going on. Okay, so there's a couple of blips, alright. Okay. So we kind of go towards those ready pinks there. Lighter versions of those pinks. That's getting to be more like what I want to see. Big blips, they're white. No, they've got a gradient in them, fine. Okay, so let's go towards some more purple for that. Dark purple, so we go for like a dark pink there. And then click OK. Yeah, way cooler. It's more in the tone. Now the thing I might do though is just bring down the opacity. Cool. Right, so yeah, I think I'm good. And I think I am going to just save that out now. Again, this is now it's a smart object, so we can come back and edit it at any stage. Have a quick look at my stream health because I haven't been checking how's it going. Oh, okay, it's been healthy for a while. That's all right then. Okay, so I'm going to go Command 0 or Control 0 if it's you. I want to make sure Photoshop is selected first. Command 0 is supposed to make it fit the screen. Now it's very intense on this compared to what it was in optics, so I'm actually just going to bring the opacity back a little bit. Cute. So the whole thing about this is that it's meant to be OTT. So it looks OTT, well then it's working for what I want to do. So, and we just save this and it'll go back to Lightroom. Like if you want, you can do the crops inside Lightroom or you can do the crops inside Photoshop. It's up to yourself. The advantage of doing the crop in Lightroom after you've edited it is of course that you can change the crop at any point from there. Whereas if you do it before, you're kind of stuck with it a little bit. So. But in this case here, like I said, the reason for cropping is that you're trying to create a shape that's going to work for Instagram, and again I just prefer that 4x5 to the 4x6 which you get inside most cameras. Micro Four Thirds do a 4x3, so it's slightly different, but most digital SLRs or mirrorlesses are based on that 6x4, 4x6. So well, technically a 3:2 ratio, but you know it multiplies out. I find it's an easier comparison to talk about 5:4 and 5:6 because you know it's instantly in your head. You get that extra one jumping. No, I'm not doing product placement, and I really shouldn't be drinking that crap. Anyway, and jump back to Lightroom, and like the difference now there, very saturated. Not saturated, and this is a calibrated monitor. I think it's something to do with the way the GPU is working when you go across monitors, that it's not doing quite what we expect it to do. Just going to pull this off onto a different monitor for a second and pull it back again. I mean, even the difference between the two monitors is huge. Like so. So I am going to jump to some of the less. This is obviously very stylized looking, you know. So it's all about big shapes and it's all about color. So, so down for stuff on the beach and the woods. We're not going to do the swim stuff. I mean, the swim stuff is like honestly, it's kind of tame and stuff like that. But I actually just want to do some more kind of just portraity, fashiony stuff here. I actually have a few of these marked as 1 star, so let me just bring up the filter and just bring up some of the 1 stars, and then we can work off some of them. So some of these are lit, some of these are not lit, as in like brought lights, and then some of them just sunlight and stuff like that. So I'm just going to grab one of these. Yeah, I'm going to go for this one here. I just edit this one. Or actually we'll go for that one. Okay. T, and let me just shift tab to hide all of the stuff that's here, and I'm going to press T to get rid of the toolbar, and then I will bring up the actual controls. Yeah, it is. Oh, light leaks and flares. It could have been, Scotty, that could have been the Pro Lost ones. It was, what was his name? Stu. Oh, Stu, Stu, I don't know how to pronounce his surname. Matt Stewich. He's Red Giant is the company as well. Pro Lost is kind of him online. He's like a genius filmmaker, and a lovely guy. So we got quite deep contrast going on here because it's the sun is lighting this. So I'm going to open up the shadows a little bit for that. And the image is quite warm, but I'm going to give it a little bit of hint more warmth as well, though, just because I like that. And we could definitely do with a bunch more vibrance, where we're bringing up these greens to get a little bit of that kind of color in them. And The only thing I might do from there is go to HSL and play with the hue of those greens. So do they need to be warmer or greener? Green, well, warmer is actually looking better, so bringing it a little bit more towards yellow. It's one thing that people forget that you can do. That green, grass, we call grass green. When you go to edit grass, it's actually more likely to be yellow. And let me just double click this here for a second. All right, and I'm going to grab the hue control and I'm going to come over to the grass itself. And as we drag, you can see that the yellow slider is actually moving much more than the green slider, even though you're on green. It's just because there's a lot of green in grass, or a lot of yellow in grass, even though we perceive it as green. So I'm just going to bring it a little bit more towards the yellow anyway, because I just wanted to have that kind of warmer tone in this. Some of the skin is a little bit bright here as well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down the highlights as well, and I'm just watching what's happening along the skin here as I do it. Alright, she's tan on, so I do want it to look tan. So, and again, I'm going to do the crop here before I even get started, because I mean I could do it after, but I know that that's kind of the crop that I want anyway, so that she's kind of a little bit more centered in it. Alright, so I think we're pretty much ready to go for our edit. So Command E or Control E just to open it in Photoshop. And has Photoshop opened it yet? Not yet. Okay, and a bit of a color change as well again, which is annoying. First thing I'm going to do now, what happens is sometimes with posing, when the model is going from pose to pose, you're not always in full control of the direction and stuff like that, and it can be subtle stuff like that. Generally speaking, I try to keep elbows away from the body, so it stops the top of the arm looking wide. Now in this case here, it's because she's pressing it, it's kind of pushed this out a little bit, so I'm actually just going to fix that with Liquify. So that's Shift Command X. We also find it in Filter and Liquify. Yeah, I just said that. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on there, Karen. To be honest, I think what it is, it's down to the fact that I am working on the second monitor, and what happens is when it's going across is that it's doing something really funny with the profiling on the second monitor, because it doesn't do that when it's on the main monitor, and it's just literally from popping across. Like, I mean, cause like what I see when I move this open in the other monitor, so when I bring it across here, it even happened with one of the stuff where I was pulling it across and the color changed in front of my eyes when I brought it to the other monitor. So there's something going on with the actual profile itself. So here I'm just going to make this a little bit larger than the area I want to work in. And then I'm just going to move gently, and I will regularly go outside the area that I'm pulling from, just so that any of the stretching that's going to happen is done evenly. Yeah, no, it is weird, definitely. There's about a 2-second delay, I think, on the stream as well. So if it seems like I'm answering a little bit after you've done it, it's because there is like a little bit of a delay. I'm actually just going to pull this in here slightly as well, just for shade, and just because it's easy to do, I'm just going to do the face width and jawline, even though she doesn't really need it around like that. Okay, now there's a little bit of light that I'm going to do in the face here because of the angle looking down. So yeah, that's better. And yes, I have done this on the background layer, and people say, oh, do it on the other layer, but you know, do whatever works for you. I would have probably flattened it down anyway. Okay, so we talked about what's happening here, so we kind of do need to get a little bit of light back in the eyes. There isn't really a catch light as well. I don't generally put catch lights in because just it's very hard to get them looking natural. The best thing to do is actually copy them from another image. But anyway, we're just going to jump in and just start doing a little bit of the healing stuff. Get rid of blemishes. There's not really much going on here. And like, honestly, as time goes by, I feel like doing this less and less. Okay, that's a mistake. Undo. Line it up better. And people generally don't use healing on edges, but you can. The thing is just to make sure that you use a really well lined up edge, and that's really all that's about. So just going to get these to try and balance that area there a little bit better. That's something that I would more likely be doing using the frequency separation, which I think we're going to jump to in a second. Just trying to even out some of these skin tones a little bit more. So let me just jump to that. So as I said, this is frequency separation, 8-bit frequency separation, but the main differences that I've used 10 pixel dust and scratches rather than using Gaussian blur, but everything else is the same. The texture is based from apply image, subtract mode on the blur there, at scale 2 and offset of 128, and then it's set to linear light, as you can see here. That's really all the differences. And the other thing, Kieran, is that when I am doing my actual normal edits, I will be editing on the main screen, which doesn't seem to suffer from that. But the problem is the main screen is a 5K screen, and if I stream the 5K screen, it just brings the computer to its knees. So that's kind of the reason why I got the second screen in the first place. So, and let me just get rid of some of these dust marks on the top as well. Now there is little tricks where you can use kind of median and stuff like that to try and get rid of these, but in this case there isn't that many, so I'm just going to get rid of them manually like that. So down to this. Now this color fix there is just a duplicate of the underlying color blur layer. Oh yeah, yeah, Kieran, because it's just this. So this is a HD screen. The other one is 5K, and just even though it can downscale and stuff like that, it just means the CPU's done a whole lot of work in the background as well. And the streaming and the editing and having a bunch of programs open at the same time, it just, yeah, it's a 2015 iMac, so you know, like, you know, it's 6-year-old technology. So I'm just trying to cope with that as well. I'm thinking about getting one of the M1 Mac Minis at some point, but I might wait for the M2. So, and the only reason to do that is really so that I can play Gwent on the computer instead of on iOS. Anyway. So this is, it's not sharp as I'd like here as well, so we will come around with that. This is just what happens when you're kind of shooting at like a low aperture. And yes, I could have gone higher, but I wanted that bokeh. So what I'm going to do here is, let's go to blur, Gaussian blur. We're just setting it to 10, which is the same, whatever we've used. Yeah, good luck. I know, that's, yeah. Graphics cards especially, I have to get a graphics card for my young lad. He was using like a 2011 iMac for a while that was just getting too slow, and he wanted to play games that were only on PC. So I had gotten a refurb off Amazon for like £150, but it's an i5. And like for £155 for an i5 is fine, but it was the integrated Intel graphics, so it was obviously not great. So we were lucky enough to get one of the GT710s just to replace it, so that he could actually have an opportunity to play some games. And we got that for like 55 quid. Now it's a very basic graphics card, but that was with 2 gigs of RAM, you know, which for basic kind of game stuff is reasonable. So all I'm doing is just selecting these areas here, and I'm just redoing I'm literally using this shortcut here, Control Command F. Again, I don't know the PC version of that, because Control is normally used to replace Command on PC. So it's just to get a little bit of evenness in the skin. I was trying not to overdo it and make it look super fake. And the areas I watch is here, is just to make sure that doesn't get too much. Stop, Scotty, you're making me jealous there now. The reason why I go for the Mac Mini rather than a laptop in this case here is just because I want to be able to use more screens, basically, is what it boils down to. I'm used to a dual screen setup now at this stage, and I would hate to move back away from anything else. Don't worry about it. Again, and the reason why I'm using shortcuts for this is just because it just makes it quicker. So a couple of things we'll talk about sharpening here as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do the claw again. Shift Command Alt Option, Shift Command Option E, Shift Alt Control E, Control Shift Alt E, however you want to put it. Just to put them all in one layer. So a couple of things we could do here to try and get the sharpness is there's loads of methods for doing it. what I could do is, now because of the actual workspace that I'm on here, why am I painting? Even on photography, it's still not going to give you the stuff you want. I think I was on it because it still doesn't give you sharpening. Come over here now. I actually thought I must set up my own workspace. Can you grab this, please? Let me move this. Yeah, but like moving and you like what's going on in the image, so you still try and fix it. And don't say you haven't done it now, Karen. So you have to come down here and we have to find it inside here. It's a Sharpen Tool. So we could do this. Right, and that will just apply sharpening inside there to make it appear sharper. Now obviously that's just increasing contrast edges. That's what's doing that. So let me just undo that. Okay. That's going way, way back and still sharp. Did I just tap that much? Let me look at history. Yeah, I did do that much. Oh, one more to go. All right. A couple of things you can do. And I have these all set up as actions now. So if you were to ask me how I set them up, I'd be like, well, I don't know. Luminous Landscape years ago had a thing about edge sharpening. And so what it does is allows you to detect edges, and then you can just sharpen edges, whatever is an edge. All right. And Guy Gowan has one, which I showed some of earlier, in how to select just the reds, and then you invert it to avoid the reds, or use invert to avoid reds, or leave invert off to select reds, which will be the skin tones. So I think what we can do here is, if we go on this one here, duplicate the layer, and then we go to Filter, Other, High Pass, and then you set it to like 1 or 2 pixels. That will give you the edges, and then you set that to Overlay or Soft Light. Alright, we can see that that is much sharper there. Okay, so depending on where you want that to be, what you could do is you can hold down your Option, and you can set up a layer mask, a black layer mask to hide everything. Then B for brush, and we're painting at 50% here, so like opacity is at 50%. You can just paint in where you want that sharpness to be as well. So that's probably one of the quickest ways. There's another way of actually getting exactly the texture without having to use that. Is, see, we have this texture layer here already. Okay, so let me just get rid of those 2 layers altogether there for a second. Okay, and what we can do is, if we duplicate this texture layer, if it'll let us do that, what's going on here? What have I done here to stop that from happening? I'm not. Photoshop has become completely, oh, I see what happened here. We have this opening up on the other windows. What happened there? All right, so if I just drag this down here and duplicate that, we can see here that it's basically duplicated all of the texture. So what we could do here is we could actually like bring the opacity of this down, and then that will act as a sharpening layer if you want to do that as well. But in this case here, well, I think I'll just do the claw and grab that sharpen, and then just kind of just paint it in there. And you're just doing it on along like the nostrils, the edge of the lips, stuff that would actually have shape and texture. And the lashes, we're avoiding the skin obviously, and then kind of bring it into the hair a little bit. Yeah, and there we go. Now I'm going to do, now I'm not, this is my eyes for doing that thing with the eyes. Sure, let's do it anyway. B2, pressing B2, and so I'll bring up a 20% brush and make sure this is on white, and then we can just bring in like that kind of little bit of highlight in the eyes there as well. Shift Command N for a new layer. That's if it's letting me do that. But why is my select gone off again? Oh, because a new layer jumped to a different screen. That's really annoying when it does that. So we're on a brush, 100%, and we are going to come in here, make sure it's soft, and make it small, and we're going to stick it in here, and we're going to see how bad it looks for a catch light, and this is why I don't like trying to do catch lights. Move it around a little bit, zoom in a bit, make it smaller. And let's see how it looks zoomed out. You know what, at that size there it actually looks okay. It's not something I like doing. But just the angle of the sun and stuff with the head down is just not great for it. So, right, anyway, so we're going to move on. Another stamp visible there, another claw, Shift Command Option E. Well, what happens is, because I work on the other screen mostly, they open on the other screen, but because I'm recording on the second screen, they're still used to open on the other screen. So when I'm working on the main screen, I prefer them to open on the main screen. So that's what's happening there. And the other thing is that, let's say I use, like, if I've opened optics on the second screen, it'll keep opening on the second screen, but if I ever move it to the other screen, then it changes to the other screen. So we're about to hope that optics then opens on this screen, because I've been opening it on this screen. And I should have turned that into a smart object layer, but it's fine for this. I'm just literally going to add a small bit of flare and stuff like that to it. Are you using a dual monitor? I would assume that you're using a dual monitor setup, at least, Kieran. Again, like I say, it always brings up what you ever used last, so reset it. And what we'll go is, we're just going to go with a basic light leak. The default one, actually, for this kind of stuff, the default one is perfect. And I'm just going to kind of move it so kind of around the face. So that what I do is, I'm looking for where the gap is around the face. So that's kind of clean there, and that's good for me there. And I'm then just going to grab a little bit of a flare that kind of looks sun-like. Or we have sun rays, do we? Yeah, actually, you know what? That'd be better, won't it? Rays. Let's go for rays altogether. Nope, that's not what I'm thinking. Nope, that's not what we want. I think it's going to be a desert sun, maybe. There's a California sun and there's a desert sun, maybe. I just throw that in kind of there, just hinting in from the edge. Make it nice and long. And I'm happy with that. It's just something very, very basic. That's if I decide to upload it, Scotty. I might not. This is kind of just a test. I'm thinking about doing this like every week. Just do an hour or two of editing every week. And the other thing is, it means I do get some editing done when I need some editing done as well. And get to chat to people as well. So, anyway, sleep tight. Don't let the huntsman spiders bite or any of that kind of stuff. I know they don't. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. Save it away. The other thing is, if you were happy enough with the work you've done and you know you're not going to repeat stuff, flatten those layers to make the file smaller. Everybody's like, oh, don't do that, but just do whatever you need to do, okay? Save. I mean, regularly enough, I'll go back and I think like really, really old work files that I've not used in ages, I have gone back and I've turned them into like high quality JPEGs. I just delete the TIFF files because, you know, yeah, just don't need them. Saving 99%. It saves at 99% for ages, always, whatever that is about. Righty. I think we'll do one more and call it from there because it's 25 to now. I said I'd do an hour or two and I've done an hour and a half now at this stage. So I think for the next one, I will probably not do as long. There's like a 2-second delay on the settings. So we will see if that's better. I'm just going to have a look at my stream health. It's still healthy, thankfully, because it was a bit percentage. Yeah, yes, I've noticed that percentage is not linear in Photoshop. you know, no more than it is like, you know, estimated time, you know, 75 hours, 3 minutes, you know. What do we go for next? Let's go for the one with the kind of dapple light in the tray. See how that is. Check our focus first of all. Yeah, it's reasonable. Not good enough for Kieran, but reasonable. I think because of the nature of the environment we're in here, if we go back and we grab this image, and then we go back to our tree, we've got to find where that image is now, and we press D, we can actually click previous, and previous will copy all of the settings to this one. But I think in this case here we will get rid of the crop. I'll get a reset anyway, so passable. Yeah, but you can see it's sharpenable anyway. And the other thing is that if you had to sharpen for like your mosaic filter, not mosaic, anti-aliasing filter, it's kind of similar enough. Or for dodgy lenses like some of the old Canon lenses I used to have on Canon, even though they weren't supposed to be dodgy or expensive. I cropped the finger there. I'm really annoyed that I did that. Anyway, that actually annoys me more than what you're saying with focus. So because I know that's fixable, so I'm just going to bring up my exposure a little bit. I don't think I need to do much with this, you know, because like that's kind of copy the settings the way I wanted it. So I'm just going to go straight to Photoshop, Command E. Again, it's also in the editing menu here. Control E if you're on PC. Wow, is the stream that far behind? I've just looked at the screen to see how far behind the stream is. It looks like it's way more than 2 seconds behind. So what I'm going to do is, let me look, I'm going to check my stream settings here. And I'll do nothing while I'm waiting for the stream to catch up if I do this. And I've got to figure out where that is now. Now when I'm writing, for the most part, it's literally the difference is that Command is Control and Option is Alt. And the only thing is that where it is an issue is just that one where we're seeing the, wow, see the way that's just jumped? Color there, wow, very saturated. Is that when Control is used, like you've got Control N and Control H, which is the same on Mac and PC and Lightroom, which is the HDR and the pano merges, but that's the only time Control is actually normally used. Normally Control and Command are direct swaps. So that's why when you have that filter where it's, you know, Control Command F, that I just don't know what the Mac or what the PC equivalent is. You know what, let me just bring up something as well, because you're talking about material, right? And just let's bring the CPU to its knees again. So I'll show you what I'm actually currently working on. I've talked about it obviously on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, and even have I mentioned it on the other socials? Not really, because Twitter is more, I'm more interactive on Twitter, and because obviously that's what Twitter is. Twitter is more about interaction and stuff like that. So I am on chapter 14, I think, at the moment. I think there's 22 in the book, or 23, maybe more. I've added material to it. So this is my Lightroom book from Lightroom 4 and Lightroom 5 that I actually rewrote for Lightroom 7. And then there's all the stuff going on with my wife and my late wife, just so that we know where that went. And so I kind of then with Lightroom 8, and so now I'm just working for as a Lightroom 10 book. So I'm just pulling up the InDesign file here at the moment. But while that is opening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if there is a way to change the stream. I'm not sharing it yet. No, I haven't shared it yet. I'm just trying to see if there is a way of changing the. Yeah, you still see it. That's right. I haven't brought it over yet. Okay, no, I can't change that. I can't change that while we're running. Okay, that's fine. But it is, InDesign is opening in the background and it's just taking a little bit to open. So alright, there we go. And so it's gone as far as the file open screen. Now I've kind of based the color that's going on throughout all the titling and stuff like that is based on this image that's on the cover at the moment. But the thing is, this might not be the cover image, so we'll see how wise it was in a minute. We'll just talk about it briefly over here. And then we'll go back and we'll edit Leanne. And in the meantime, while that's happening, I can't see chat. So I'll jump back to chat. So let's just dance to my 8-bit music while we're waiting. Yeah, and I'm just me, and obviously, you know, with all the stuff that's going on at the moment, I'm still on PUP. I mean, I can earn a little bit extra money through that and stuff like that on top of that, but not a whole lot. Nothing like what I would normally be earning. So it's just a matter of, you know, waiting. Okay, so let me just make this smaller so it will fit on the screen when I bring it across, and let me jump up to the cover page, which is hard when OBS is in the middle of the way. Oh, come on. Where's the pages? Oh, no, here we go. Right, okay, I did it anyway. So just jump this across here. Okay, I need to bring it. I need to make it a little bit smaller first, because I won't be able to drag up the shape of it in the other screen. Alright, okay. So that's what I've been working on. This, most of my day is kind of, at the moment, is going through working on this. You're seeing all the outlines, stuff like that, which is based on the fact that you're seeing the actual layout stuff as well. So this is basically going through essential development. Now it says 25 great tips, but we haven't got 25 yet. And there's more to go in here. So I'm kind of going, so I've updated all of the stuff, all of the text updated. There's new images and stuff like that. I've also redone layouts, so that way it I can, if I need to make a change at any stage really quickly, I can just swap out specific bits, like when they update the UI to add tools, so I can just redo the actual panel without necessarily need to find the original image and stuff like that. So unless they change how the histogram works, I shouldn't need to update these if I update the book again. Yeah, so just that's basically going through it as well. So there's lots of stuff added to it compared to what it was before. So if we just go Command 0, that should center it a bit better. So yeah, going through that. So we can see, like, I even talk about how to create your own profiles, which is actually done in Camera Raw rather than in Lightroom itself. Anyway, so that's basically what I am working on at the moment. So yeah, so yeah. Sorry, Kieran, that is held for review, and because of the fact that what you call it, is it a labour of love? Well, the original issues, like, so the first one sold really super well, and the second one didn't sell as well as the first one, and because a lot of people would have had it, but this is like a completely new. Is it a labour of love? I can only answer that question when I actually go to sell it and see if people buy it. Is it worth doing? Yeah, it's worth doing, because it gets me into the habit of doing the stuff regularly. I mean, I'm writing articles for magazines anyway, so like I said, I have 2 articles a month that I write, but it keeps me writing on a regular basis, and there's a whole wealth of information that I could write about it. So I could do stuff about lighting, and this is specifically about develop, so I could do stuff in relation to file management and all of that kind of stuff. I have a book for that, which I don't think would be as popular, just because develop is kind of sexier, as it were. You know, people like seeing the edit, and the file management stuff is like, oh, it's so boring, it's like housework, you know. But you know, I think there's definitely stuff for there. I mean, even like the stuff with playing with Boris, I'd like to do some stuff with that, and a couple of the other programs I like Luminar and Exposure, and X6. I could do stuff like that, you know. So yeah, it's more geeky, but like at the same time, if you can't find your files, they're not worth having. You know, you may as well not have shot that image if you don't know how to find them. So it's important, Yep, so that's what I'm doing on the other side. But now we're going to go back and we're going to edit some Lian. So, oh yeah, there's definitely a geek market though, and there are people who are interested in that kind of stuff. Now let's see if we can get. I'm going to expand the panel and see if I can move it from there like that. That'll be better. I don't know why it just is not wanting to do what I want to do when I'm. No, okay, well that will help me move it. Well, grand, fine, lovely. There we go. The sun is oh, man, I have grey skies. I have grey skies. All right, enjoy. So this is, I think we're just going to go for the, well, after I close down the actions panel, that's what we're going to do, is grab that one, which is hard to see now because I've made the panel wider. Enjoy. It's really weird that the color is changing as I'm zooming in and out, but I think that's down to the GPU. See, it's changed again there on me. And as I drag it, it's changing. That is super weird. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. Let me just look at the preview. Alright, so it's very, oh yeah, there you know. I'm just, like, because of the delay, I'm actually able to see it happening there. And yeah, so this looks like the tone I'm expecting, but when I click and drag, oh, let me not drag that, but normally what I actually have done on this, I need to go back and do it, is I turn that on so it can't move, and the same with the texture, so I can't actually move them about by accident. So I'm just literally going to grab some texture stuff here. J, have we got J selected? Grand. That's our heel. So J for heel. Yeah, so there's something weird going on with the GPU rendering here with this, and the color is actually changing as I'm moving. So, and it's more than likely related to the fact that I'm streaming. But I already know that the color from the main screen was okay, so I'm just going to go on with the actual work part, as it were. So yes, I know I'm talking in between the concentration bits. Okay, so now the color fix layer, I'm going to go L for lasso. That's the lasso tool there, and so it's set to 10 pixels as well. So, and we're going to go for that Gaussian blur of 10 pixels, which matches the dust and scratches from our action. And I like to do it in sections of faces rather than whole faces. Sometimes you need to kind of cross over areas. Oh, accidentally hit save instead of deselect. But that is fine. So I'm using, again, you can see that flashing up there because I'm using that shortcut for it. And back to texture as well, just to get rid of a few of the things. So pressing J again to bring up our healing. And the save is obviously killing the machine. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is, have I turned off InDesign? I'm going to turn off InDesign in the background here. Quit InDesign. Save. Now the save is only because it's moved position in the file. That will hopefully help that save quicker, and it did. There we go. I'm actually going to come in here and go to my B2, so B for brush and 2 for 20%, which is what I generally do when I use this. So again, I'll explain what that is in 2 seconds, in case you've forgotten. So this is a curve, properties. So we can see here that it's a flat curve. I've done nothing to the actual curve itself. All I've done is come in here and set the blend mode to color dodge. and then I've literally just painted in where I want it to be on the eye, and that's it. So if you look at the eye, you can see that it just lifts the eye a little bit. So now I'm zooming out a little bit, just have a look and see. I think I'm just going to do a very quick lasso around this area here. And there's some really weird stuff happening around from the GPU there. And just do the blur, just try and give it a little bit of softness to that. And I think just down here in the abdomen, avoiding the belly button area. Again, this is like set to 10 pixels as well, just so there's a little bit of a blur on the edges of it. And again, we're just applying that Gaussian blur. Alright. And to be honest, I don't think I'm going to go into Boris for this. I think it's just going to be what it is, like. So. And yeah, now I've cropped the hands a little bit, so I'm going to leave the crop until after. In this case here, because I'm happy with the work I've already done, I'm going to completely flatten this with Shift Command E, and that flattens it down and gives us that lovely color change from the GPU. But anyway, so save it again. I should save a bit quicker as well, because it's obviously going to be with less layers, it's smaller. I know, but you know, I'm talking, so I do need to wet my lips. I could be using my bottle instead as for water, though. I just didn't fill it. So the music that's going on in the background is Pop Sky with loads of Y's in it as well on SoundCloud, and it is you just buy it and it's commercial free. There's like an album pack for, I can't remember, I think it's even donationware, but I did pay for it, like, you know, because I knew I was going to be using it on streams. So okay, and let's see if that is gone back to Lightroom. Yeah, there we go. So I haven't done a whole lot of stuff of the post processing that you can do inside Lightroom, so let's do some of that stuff really quickly. All right, so tone curve wise, we can do the kind of the quick matte. So we like put something roughly around it a third of the way in, and then we lift that, and so that kind of lightens the blacks. We can actually see here, if we're looking at the histogram, that the histogram actually moves so the blacks go away. So it's kind of a nice cute retro look. And what I might do is, because this does bend this in slightly, I am going to bring that up a little bit so it brightens the highlights a little bit more. Alright, I'm going to do my crop as well here as well for the 5x4, and because I've cropped the hand so ugly in the shot there, I'm going to bring this in this way slightly, so it's just at the edge of the shirt line, so we don't have a transition, but then we're going to keep the hand in there safe. Okay, so I think that's a better, cleaner crop. Now we can go for color grading. So the way color grading works now, it replaced split toning, so you have shadows and highlights. If you have a preset, it will work, and the way it works is that it will take your highlights and your shadows, but the blending is at 100. So the blending is the overlap between the different sections. So the higher the blending is, the more overlap there is between shadows, highlights and midtones. And so by ignoring midtones and just doing shadows and highlights with this blending at 100, you get the same as you had with split toning. So the way it works is that you have the option of seeing all three, or you can do the individual shadows, midtones and highlights, and you also have a global color. So I'll explain global color really quickly. Global color literally sets a color tone for the entire image. Alright, so you want a warm image, you can just kind of play with the warmer tones. Excuse me, cooler image. This is me burping from the drink there, the unnamed drink that I'm not being paid to have product placement on. So that lets you kind of have like an overall color if you want, and then the strength is along here. You know, that's your saturation. One thing I'll mention very quickly as well is that normally it looks like this. To actually see the sliders, you need to open up this disclosure triangle to see hue and saturation. I'm old school, so I tend to leave it. There's also another thing where if you're holding down the shift key, it fixes you on only saturation, and if you hold down the Alt or Option key, is it the Alt or Option key, or is it the Command key? Oh, it's the Command key, my bad. Fixes your hue. Alright, so you're able to have it at a set saturation or a set hue, and then work on the opposite. So I'm double click on the word global to turn it off. So in this case here, I'm going to jump to shadows. So we could go for kind of cooler shadows a little bit. Now we could go really intense if you wanted, but we're just going to be kind of subtle here. And then go for highlights. And go for kind of warmer highlights. We could even go kind of there. We are kind of aiming at a teal and orange. But now watch happens when we do the blend. Nothing. Nah, that's not true. You can actually see that it's gotten stronger there. And balance then lets you control, does it go more towards the shadow color or more towards the highlight color. Again, we could change the intensity here manually with the sliders as well. And we can also add a completely different mid-tone color. So we could go like so, pinks in the mid-tones if we wanted, for example. Which I think is a little bit strong. I wouldn't actually do it on this image. You don't have to use the color grading. Yeah, no, so let me just jump in by doing that. So what you could do is you go back to the tone curve, all right, and you can click on the, say, the red channel, so you can make it redder or more cyan. I'm glad they added these, green and magenta, blue and yellow. So that's how we wanted to warm the highlights. You do that, and if you wanted to cool down the shadows, you could do that. And then with that kind of cyan, if you wanted, you can come in with the red. You notice I'm not even playing with the actual curve here. I'm actually just leaving them linear and pulling stuff in. What does this look like? That's what it looks like. If you want, of course, you can do stuff with the actual, you know, tone curve to create contrast within it. But that's just some of the idea on that. Righty, we are just about to hit the 2 o'clock mark. Let me jump over to my stream here to this, so it's just me. Yeah, so that is basically me. Part of the reason for doing the stream is I get to do some editing and I get to have a little bit of a chat. And of course as well is that, you know, I am still trying to build up the channel and stuff like that. So by, you know, coming in, being social, all that kind of stuff, and well, I'm enjoying it anyway. I do have a whole load of new stuff I posted on my stories on Instagram. So yeah, Sean McPhoto on Instagram for that. So I've got a new microphone. So I'm currently using this USB microphone. It's a Superlux E205U. It's actually a fantastic microphone for the money. They're like €45. I think they're actually €39 now because there's a Mark II version. But this is the original one and it sounds great. It's just a USB, plug straight in, works. The filter came off another microphone though, the pop filter, and it just plugs in and there's no thinking about it. So it's just so handy, like, you know. Things flashing up on the phone there. So I got the SM7B, and this is just a kind of a cheapy arm. And the problem with the cheapy arms, let's see if I can bring it into a thing, is that this. I'm sure you can hear that there. So the external springs. So I got the Rode mic one, which is internal springs, so I shouldn't have that issue. It's also much more robust. But I've also got a mic channel with a preamp and a compressor, so that way if I do talk loud it'll pull it back, and then I'll be going into my sound card, which I've had for doing basic recording stuff myself here. So the audio setup will be getting a bit of a boost now when I get it going, and for the videos and stuff like that. I didn't do a video yesterday because I actually had my first Pfizer shot as well in my arm, and my arm is actually ridiculously sore. Other than that, I haven't felt feverish or anything like that. I was exhausted yesterday because I didn't sleep properly, so I actually went to bed super early yesterday. I think I was in bed at like 8 o'clock and woke up at 11:30, and then was awake till about 4 o'clock, and then crawled out of bed around 1. So, you know, my sleep was caught on, but I missed the weekend, so why not? So yeah, so that's fine. So in 4 weeks I'll get the second shot, and then in 5 weeks I'll be protected, fully protected. I mean, there is protection from having the first dose anyway. But yeah, my arm is really sore. Anyway, folks, for those who stayed or those who watched, thank you very, very much for watching. And I intend to try and do these, unless I've got some scouting related stuff, I will be trying to do these every Saturday. So, all right, thank you for watching. I will debate leaving this one up or not. We will see. I think it went reasonably well. So I will put in a message to say skip on to the start, you know, to remind people that even though they're watching a video, they can skip even though it was live. It doesn't mean it's all live. So anyway, thanks for those who stayed, and thanks for all of the chat, folks.